Hello, this is Sada Gonzalez with Ensembles of the Past.
And I am Mindy Grace from Girl of a Different Era.
And today we would like to share with you how God allowed our paths to cross, how He answered my prayers.
And by doing so, called me from New York to Missouri.
She reached out and I got this email in my inbox, and her initial email read, "Do you do internships?"
Probably one of those, dead blogs where people post and post and then they just stop posting because life gets crazy. I've come across way too many of them. So I'm like, it's, since she posted this like last year, it's probably, I'm not going to hear back from her and it'll just be another dead end.
And it's really interesting because that blog post that you read was my Refocusing of Mexico blog post that I posted in June of 2019. So it had been a full year, almost a full year and a half when Mindy reached out to me, and that was my latest blog post. I am the world's slowest blogger, but I do hope to improve, we'll see. And it's just interesting because when I wrote that blog post, I really felt impressed that I needed to write it. And in that blog post, I went through all the things that I had been dealing with for the past 6 months. My sister, who had been working for me, quit suddenly, and I was dealing with trying to figure out why. And I don't like being that vulnerable, and don't like being that open to random people that might just come across and read my blog post. But something impressed me, and I know it was God, impressed me to just pour out my heart in a professional way, but do it so that people would know where I was coming from, and what I was dealing with. And it was very uncomfortable for me, but it was something that I felt like I needed to do. And I prayed through every single thing that I wrote in it, including mentioning that I wanted interns and apprentices who really wanted to learn the trade. And so just a little backstory too, I ended up, after writing that blog post in 2019, I ended up getting a potential apprentice, and she worked with me for 3 months. And I thought for sure this was going to happen. God was moving and He was going to make it happen. And after working with me for 3 months, she decided that she wanted to go to college instead. And I was severely disappointed. I was borderline devastated, and just because I wanted so much to have that working relationship with an apprentice, and I thought that was God's answer, to my prayers. And so it was hard. And then fast forward 2020, I had another intern that worked with me for another 3 months, and it was lovely. And I enjoy working with young girls. It's one of my passions. But it continued to be a waiting game. And then when Mindy reached out to me in October of 2020, I thought in my mind, I imagined this older woman, like middle-aged, reaching out because she's bored, and she thought, oh, sewing sounds fun. And so, because there was no information in the email about who this person was, and I get these messages all the time asking for sewing classes and internships, and so in my mind, I had imagined this middle-aged woman that was bored and needed something to do, and so she thought, oh, I should learn to sew, kind of thing. And anyway, crazy thing is, that's not actually what happened.
Yeah, I was not a middle-aged woman who was bored. No, I was actually just started getting into sewing that year. Like, I sewed with my grandmother, like most granddaughters do. But then through some inspiring YouTubers, I was like, oh, historical sewing, that's so cool, because I love those old movies, and I love those costumes, and that's totally me. So I had gotten into that and failed a bazillion times, and then yeah, I was just being educated at home. I've self-taught myself so many things, maybe only so-so, but the thought of being taught by someone, because sewing just gets really tricky, especially historical stuff, was just like a dream come true. I'm like, oh my goodness, if someone can teach me this, I won't have to be Googling everything.
Which Google has its, pluses too, but there is something about hands-on instruction. Yeah. The crazy thing, I replied to Mindy's message finally 3 days later because it was a busy weekend for me and I was still in recoup mode. And actually, another crazy thing is the week that Mindy messaged me for the very first time was probably one of the hardest weeks of my entire life. Because I was just feeling so burnt out and so overworked, and after sewing for 8 weeks solid on wedding garments, and I was needing a miracle more than I can describe, and I didn't think too much about Mindy's message except at my fellowship the next day after she messaged me. I did mention it just briefly. Oh yeah, somebody messaged me on my on my website yesterday. I haven't replied, but she wants to know if I do internships. Yeah, that'll be cool if she becomes of it. But and then I just didn't think too much about it until I messaged you back, and you replied within a few hours.
I was so excited because, like I said, I wasn't really expecting it after a weekend. Sometimes I just automatically think people should reply to emails even over the weekend. So yeah, I was pretty hyped.
So crazy thing, I learned a little fragment about her each email, and we had an email a day going for several days, if not 2 emails a day going
yes.
for several days, and I was just amazed at how excited she was and ecstatic that she was about costuming and historical sewing and learning from me. And I learned in her second email that she was from New York, which was another reason why I thought, well, I doubt this is going to work out, just because I don't know if she actually knows that I live in Missouri. And I also don't know, if she has the funds to move or any of that. And so crazy thing, she continued to message me, and she gave me a link to her blog, which then I looked up, of course, because I like to do research on people as soon as I know I might potentially be meeting them, and or possibly spending an enormous amount of time with them. And so I looked up her blog post, or just kept thinking that just by the pictures that you had posted, she had lots of lovely 1940s inspired pictures. And the first thought I had was, she really pulls off the 1940s look really well.
Love it! Oh yeah!
And the second thought was, I really feel like she and I are going to get along really, really well. I just felt this kindred spirit with you, even though we hadn't met in person. And it was almost like I already knew you in a lot of ways. So it was incredibly fun. But at the same time, I was like waiting because I didn't know if anything would actually work out. Yeah, so what did that look like on your end, emailing me for a week or so?
I was ecstatic. I was like bouncing off the walls. I don't normally bounce off the walls.
Are you kidding? No.
I know. Well, at that time, whatever.
She's blossomed on me.
I've gotten more excitable since I moved to Missouri. Try to explain that. I don't know. But no, I was so excited because, like I said, the thought of learning from someone, and she was super friendly, and I was just like beside myself, but I was also terrified about like what would my parents say, like if they're like, Mindy, that's not a good idea. I'm not the type of person that's gonna like go do it anyways, especially since it's like that far away from home. Yeah. So I remember I told my mom, and she's like, well, that's cool, and that's interesting, but my dad was on a hiking trip with my youngest brother, and he wasn't gonna be back for a few days, so I was like emailing Sada and been like, well, still gonna ask for Dad. Each email, because I'm like, not positive. But he ended up coming home, and I was like, I need to tell him, but I don't want him to say no because I'm so excited. And he actually loved the idea because him and my mom are both adventurers. Like I remember going outside to do my chores, and I was just looking up all around our beautiful farm going, this is so exciting. What if this happened? Oh my goodness. It really felt like it was a dream, but so far away still.